Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.
Chase Binnie of Mount Horeb is a Republican candidate in the 80th Assembly District. The election is November 3. Chase, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me.
Well, when I look at your campaign website, you list 5 important issues: quality education, workforce, affordable health care, housing, and mental health. Let me ask you, which do you consider your most important, your top campaign issue? Let's start there.
Thanks. Yeah, to me, they're all connected, but quality education is one of the top ones that I'm hearing from constituents when I'm outdoor knocking. A lot of parents are really frustrated and confused and really having a hard time with all the changes related to the COVID policies. And so I'm looking to give parents more voice in their child's education. And that's going to be one of the top issues.
Well, okay, let's start on that issue. Yesterday, the governor, as you know, extended the statewide mask edict until November 21. Do you support that?
No, I do not.
Why?
He's already been challenged and overturned in a similar type of mandate through the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Yes, it's a little bit different, but he's being challenged again, and I don't think that we should be putting the same kind of mandate on rural areas that have little to no cases of COVID. It just doesn't seem like a narrowly tailored solution. It seems like a broad stroke that is unnecessary.
Okay, thank you. Staying on the pandemic, if the pandemic results in us, the state government collecting, I'm going to make up a number, $1 billion less in state tax collections. If you're a member of the Assembly, you've got some tough choices in how to fill that shortfall. What are your thoughts? Raise taxes or fees or cut spending? Please, Chase.
Cut spending would be the way I would go. It would depend on if it's $1 billion shortfall or if it's a $5 million shortfall. I think it'd be easier to ratchet down spending if it's a smaller number. If it's a giant number like that, I think we've got a major issue. We'll have to look at all solutions.
The role that hospitals have been played in treating COVID-19 patients nationally and, of course, in Wisconsin, we now have 500 hospitalized with COVID in Wisconsin. That's a record. My question is this: in the next state budget, should hospitals get an even greater priority than they may have in the current state budget?
Well, as far as COVID related, it seems that there's been a lot of federal funding that's supported that. Where I'm seeing hospitals hurting are where they are more rural and small town based clinics and doctors. And the biggest hurt that I've heard is that they haven't been able to do elective surgeries. So a lot of the revenue is down from that. So I would definitely want to support hospitals and clinics with an emphasis on smaller and more rural, so that we can keep those up and keep those available for the people who can't commute all the way to bigger cities.
A bill was recently introduced in the legislature. Here's what it said. If you're an organization that has complied with COVID-19 protocols to protect your patients, your customers, your employees, you could not be sued over COVID. Is that a bill you could vote for?
I would support, I'm getting the question right, so I answer it with the right answer. I don't think they should be sued if a customer or an employee catches COVID. I think that it's very difficult to pin it on a specific place. If contact tracing, my wife is actually a contact tracer. Sometimes it's really hard to find out where they got it. So if we open the door to lawsuits on businesses and employers, I think it's going to be a mad rush to get pin the blame on somebody.
Okay, thank you. New subject. The debate over policing reform has played out nationally over 5 or 6 months. It's even come to Wisconsin with Kenosha. The governor has a 9-bill package. The speaker is going to form a task force. Republican Senator Weingard has his own bills. The Black Caucus has their own bills. My question is this: is there any policing reform that you think should be enacted into law?
Yes, for sure. We all know, I think both parties agree that a majority of our police officers are great people. They're following their training to a T. But still there are issues, obviously, that are everybody is seeing. And I do agree with police reform. Certain policies of the Tony Evers plan sound like good ideas. I think they can be refined. And out of the three groups you mentioned who are proposing packages of bills, I think there's enough there that we can find some bipartisan support and get some things done.
Any one change you would like to see made?
So one of the ones that was on both or all three of the list there was that departments, individual police departments should be letting everyone know, disclosing what their use of force guidelines are. And that's it seems like not that big of a deal, but if people knew what the actual policies were, I think we could then, even as just average everyday citizens, look at an incident and see, did they follow the guidelines as laid out? Did they follow their training? Because right now we have a lot of people who have never been through police training. I've never been through any police training. And for me to sit and look at a video and analyze what happened and if they did the proper thing, it's easier for me to, make a call. But, if we knew what the policies were, I think it'd straighten out a few things where we're not, where people understand that they were either doing their job or they weren't doing their job correctly.
As states around Wisconsin, including Illinois, legalize recreational and medical marijuana, what's your position, please?
So I may actually, I'm not sure what the Republican Party's official stance is on this. I have my own stance, which is that medical marijuana should be legal, and recreational marijuana, I believe, should also be legal with and my plan would be a longer drawn out release of that. I prefer actually to be one of the last states to legalize it in the area, just so that we can adjust in a more, we don't have a big jolt to our economy and a jolt to our law enforcement. And we want to be able to watch what happens in neighboring states like Illinois.
Who should draw the next set of congressional and legislative district lines? The Constitution says the party in power, Governor Evers, wants a People's Maps Commission to draw them, then forward them to the legislature to be enacted. Who's right?
If we're following the Constitution, I would say that it's going to be drawn up by the legislators. Having said that, in the future, if we can get enough support for a nonpartisan commission, I've been studying what's happening in Iowa, and they've been doing it for 40 years. So we've got a lot of years to study from, and I actually like their plan. I think Tony Evers has a good intention, but I don't like what he's done with his choices for the board, the members of that commission, being that out of 9 of them, I saw 3 were Democrat donors, 2 are part of a nonprofit that's actually a very left-leaning nonprofit. I just think the choices he made should not be activist or any history of political activism. I think that they should be truly nonpartisan and unbiased if they're going to be part of a redistricting maps commission.
2 questions on property taxes, which Wisconsin is a high property tax state. That means that school districts and local governments have been living with caps and limits on what they can levy in property taxes for more than 20 years. if you're a member of the assembly voting on the next state budget, should those caps stay in place? Governor Walker argued that they held down property taxes on homes, but what's your position?
Kind of a complex issue, but overall, property taxes, like you said, in Wisconsin are among the top 5 in our nation. There's 46 other states that have lower property tax rates. So that's something, as a real estate broker, actually, I have a lot of personal experience working with clients. And, sometimes if the property tax is too high, that means they can't afford to buy a home. And as the taxes increase, it actually affects renters as well. I have a few rental properties. If my taxes go up, what do I have to do with the rent? It has to go up. So that's something that I think affects everyone. I think there are different ways to raise the revenue for, like you said, for local schools.
To reduce the reliance on property tax, should cities, villages, and counties, should they have alternative revenue sources? In Milwaukee, Democratic Representative Evan Goyke has introduced a bill. If there's a referendum, Milwaukee could levy a half-cent sales tax. Is it time to give local governments alternative sources of revenue?
I would definitely prefer sales tax over property tax. The reason being a few of the reasons I already explained, but if somebody's trying to just save money, someone's on a limited income, but they own a house, you keep raising those property taxes, their income's not increasing to match that. But people who are outspending, I think that consumption taxes are definitely preferred to property tax.
Well, on that note, our gas tax is 30.9 cents per gallon. It hasn't been raised in more than 10 years. Last year, Governor Evers wanted to raise that gas tax to stabilize how we pay for highways and bridges. Could you vote for a gas tax increase?
Given the information I have right now, I would definitely support a gas tax, as long as we're balancing that out or maybe offsetting with a decrease in other taxes like income tax or property tax.
I'm sorry, were you done on that subject?
Just adding that I think it's more fair that someone who's using the roads more, which paying for more gas usually is linked to using the roads more. And I think the people using and wearing on the roads should be the ones who are paying for more of the highway repair.
If a school district or a local government plans a major public works project, should they have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses?
As much as I really want to support Wisconsin local businesses, if you're on a border town and there's a better quality contractor with lower price that's going to get the job done and provide more value to that local agency, I think that we should not have a requirement or a mandate to use a Wisconsin business.
I'm going to ask you about, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
My preference like I said, I do prefer that I want to root for Wisconsin businesses, but my approach would be that if we can make Wisconsin easier to do business in, less hurdles, less red tape, so that Wisconsin-based businesses can actually compete and win those contracts without having to have a mandate for using a local business. I think we'd win the contracts anyway.
I want to ask you about one of your top five campaign themes. Why do you list mental health resources as something that Wisconsin has got to improve? Why?
Speaking of kind of linking back to the police reform, we have seen many cases where mental health was really the core issue. It was not a crime issue; it was a mental health issue. So that link to that, I think, would help us with actually reducing the amount of abuse from police and things like that. But also during this pandemic, we've seen several cases, some local cases of just teenagers who having a very, very hard time with virtual school or having sports canceled, having their whole world kind of turned upside down and not having those social outlets or even those mentors like teachers in their life to keep them mentally stable. And we've had some tragedies with suicide, and that's something we know how to, as sometimes it can be very unexplainable, but we've been studying mental health for long enough. We know what are the factors that we can do to help build a strong community and keep people having those roots and those networks of support. So it's definitely something that I care about deeply.
We don't have a lot of time, but I want to ask you about another priority on your campaign, which is housing. What changes would you like to see made in housing?
So I actually had a voter message me on my campaign page, and she said, what are we going to do about the housing prices? And as a real estate broker, I know it's almost impossible for someone with average income to find a place to buy, or even renting. It's hard to find places. We have a shortage of housing. Dane County and this area has had a shortage of housing for a long time, and shortage of affordable housing. And I'm not talking about affordable housing projects, but we need to make it easier for people to build houses. She asked me a question about how to make housing more affordable, and then she also, complained about a new development that was taking up the beautiful nature near her. And we've got to balance the two. We can't be holding back housing to a point where people just can't afford to live. We've got even homeless people in Mount Horeb. So it's an issue that I have some personal experience with. And then finally, do you want to highlight differences between you and the incumbent you're up against on November 3? Yeah, I think the big differences there are that, she's been in office 18 years. I'm a new candidate. I'm not coming from the political background. It's something I've studied, but I'm coming from a small business owner. My wife's a teacher. I've got a young family, 2 young daughters who are about to enter school age. I think I can relate with our voters. I understand personally what kind of issues they're thinking about. And at a recent town hall, Sandy Pope said, well, if someone came along with more energy, I'd be happy to retire. And I just think like I'm someone who's got a lot of energy for this. I'm running as Republican, but actually quite independent, like you said, with my marijuana position. I actually used to be a Democrat back in college. So a lot of the things that, I understand a lot of sides of the issues, and I feel like I can work in a bipartisan way, getting things done, because that's what it takes is teamwork. We can't just be working for our party. We have to be working for the people. And I've visited almost every town in our district, knocked on several thousand doors, met with a lot of voters. And I feel like I have a pulse on what people are really looking for in their legislator. And I'd be happy to serve in the state assembly. Thank you. Chase Binnie of Mount Horeb is a Republican candidate. In the 80th Assembly District, the election is November 3. Chase, thank you for talking to WisconsinEye. Thank you so much. Have a great day. You too. Thanks.
Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.